I thought I was just staying at a cheap hotel to visit my family. But by the third night, I realized I wasn't staying in a hotel at all. I was staying in an abandoned building with a stranger who was watching me sleep. If I hadn't looked back that last night, I might never have left that town alive. I never liked my hometown. It was a tiny, run-down place in the middle of nowhere. I moved away as soon as I could. The only reason I ever went back was to see my two brothers and my friends. Usually, I stayed with my brothers. But this year, they both had girlfriends living with them, and I didn't want to be in the way. So, I decided to stay at the only hotel in town. It was a small building right off a gravel road. It didn't even have a name. It just said, "Hotel." I arrived very late. The parking lot was empty, except for one old, rusty truck. Inside, the lobby was dark. Only one small lamp was on. An old man with a messy beard and wild hair stood up when he saw me. He looked surprised, like he wasn't expecting anyone. In a low, rough voice, he said, "Need a room?" He gave me a key and showed me to a room at the very end of a long hallway. The hotel was old and felt a bit dirty. My room was tiny, just a bed and a TV. I didn't care because I only planned to sleep there. I took a quick shower and fell asleep. But at 3 a.m., I woke up. I heard a soft knocking. It wasn't at my door, it was coming from the end of the hallway. Thud, thud, thud. It sounded like a heavy wooden door hitting the frame. I was tired, so I just ignored it and went back to sleep. The next morning, the lobby was completely empty. There was no coffee and no sign of the old man. I thought it was weird, but I left to spend the day with my brothers. When I came back around 9 p.m., the old truck was still there. The lobby lights were off, and the air felt cold. I went to my room and locked the door. Suddenly, I heard the thuds again. This time, they were right outside my door. I opened the door just a crack to look out. The door to the room next to mine was slightly open. Then, the old man's voice called out from the dark hallway. "Come down to the lobby," he said. Before I could ask why, he walked away. I followed him, feeling nervous. When I got to the lobby, it was pitch black. No one was there. I couldn't even hear footsteps. I got a very bad feeling and ran back to my room. The next day, I told my friends about the strange hotel. They looked at me with confused faces. "That hotel closed down 2 years ago," they said. I laughed it off. "It can't be closed," I told them. "The lights and water work, and an old man gave me a room." That night, I drove back to the hotel cautiously. The old truck was still there. I walked down the hallway and froze. My room door was wide open. I was terrified. I ran inside, grabbed my suitcase, and left everything else behind. My toothbrush, my clothes, everything. I just needed to get out. As I reached the end of the hallway, I felt a chill down my spine. I turned around one last time. The old man was standing in the doorway of my room. He wasn't moving. He was just peering out, staring at me in the dark. I ran to my car and drove straight to my brother's house. We called the police. When the cops searched the place, they confirmed what my friend said: the hotel was vacant. The owners had moved away years ago. But here is the scariest part: the police found no sign of the old man. The old truck was gone, too. The police didn't even believe me. They thought I was just a trespasser who had imagined the whole thing. I left town the next day and never went back. Now, when I think about that night, I wonder, who was that man? And what would have happened if I had stayed in that room for one more night? I spent 12 hours relaxing in my family's cabin, drinking coffee and watching the fire. I thought I was alone. But when I looked at the snow outside, I realized someone had walked into the cabin while I was out, and they never walked back out. They were inside with me the whole time. Last Christmas, I planned a short trip to see my family. We were meeting at our old mountain cabin. It's a quiet wooden house with a fireplace and a great view of the woods. My family is small. Just me, my parents, and my sister. I decided to arrive one day early so I could spend some time alone in the peace and quiet. I arrived late in the afternoon. The sun was setting, and the woods were getting dark. I unpacked my things, took a shower, and went to bed. Everything seemed normal. It had been a year since anyone stayed there, so I didn't notice anything out of place. The next morning, I woke up early. I made a hot cup of coffee and went for a walk. There is a 2-mile trail that loops through the trees and back to the cabin. It was cold, and a thin layer of snow had fallen overnight. About half a mile in, I saw something strange. There were shoe prints in the snow. They were very clear and looked fresh. I felt nervous. No one else should have been out there. I didn't want to run into a stranger in the middle of nowhere, so I decided to turn around and go back. When I reached the cabin, I almost dropped my coffee. There were shoe prints leading right up to my front door. They weren't there when I left. This meant someone had been standing at my door just minutes ago. I looked around the empty, snowy forest. I felt like eyes were watching me from the trees. I ran inside and locked the door. My heart was pounding. I realized I had left the door unlocked when I went for my walk. Who would come all the way out here? I wondered. I called my parents. They were worried and told me to go to a hotel. But I decided to stay. I thought maybe it was just a hiker who saw the cabin and then left. I stayed inside for the rest of the day, sitting by the fireplace. I was too scared to sleep. I just sat there, drinking coffee and staying alert. As the sun went down, the woods became silent. The only sound was the crackling of the fire. I kept thinking about those footprints. Finally, I needed to know if I was safe. I went to the front door and opened it to look at the snow. My face went pale. I looked closely at the footprints. There were prints leading to the door, but there were no prints leading away. My heart stopped. If the person didn't walk away, that meant they were still inside. I slowly turned around and looked into the dark hallway. Suddenly, I heard a small creak. I leaned forward and looked toward the bedrooms. My bedroom door was open. A man was standing in the middle of the hallway, slowly creeping toward me. When he saw me, he froze for a second. Then he started sprinting at me. I grabbed my car keys off the wall, ran out the door, and jumped into my car. I drove away as fast as I could, not even looking back. The police searched the cabin later that night. The man was gone, but they found something terrifying. There were scuff marks on the floor inside my small bedroom closet. The police think he was hiding in there all day, waiting for me to fall asleep. I still don't know who he was or how he knew I was there alone. I just know that if I had closed my eyes to take a nap that afternoon, I might never have woken up. I used to think being alone on a dark road was the scariest thing that could happen. I was wrong. The scariest thing is realizing you aren't alone, and the people hiding in the trees are moving my car so no one will ever find me. I was driving through the thick forests of northern Oregon late at night. The road was empty, surrounded by miles of tall trees and heavy fog. I was on a road trip, just trying to clear my head. I wasn't paying enough attention to my gas. When the warning light came on, my GPS said the nearest station was 45 minutes away. I kept driving, but then I noticed something strange: the GPS was stuck. The screen didn't move. A few minutes later, my car sputtered and completely died. I was trapped. I looked around. It was pitch black. The forest felt lifeless and cold. I tried to call for help, but I had zero service. I realized I had to walk. I grabbed a small flashlight, locked my car, and started walking down the foggy road. The silence was terrifying. My flashlight could only see about 10 feet ahead because of the mist. After 5 minutes, I heard a loud crack. It was a branch snapping in the woods. I stopped and shined my light into the trees, but I only saw shifting shadows. I started walking faster. Then, I saw an old, beat-up car pushed halfway into the forest. It wasn't crashed, it looked like someone had hidden it there on purpose. The driver's door was wide open. It had been there for months. Seeing that car made my skin crawl. Suddenly, I heard more rustling. I looked toward the trees and saw them, multiple figures running through the woods, staying just out of sight. My whole body went cold. I didn't run because I didn't want to look like prey, but I walked as fast as I could. I could hear their footsteps matching mine, crunching through the leaves right next to the road. Suddenly, a dusty pickup truck pulled up beside me. An older man with a gray beard looked at me and asked, "Are you stranded?" I told him I ran out of gas. He looked worried and told me to get in. He said I was much further from the station than I thought. As soon as I got into the truck, the noises in the forest stopped. It was dead silent again. The man was kind and dropped me off at a gas station 25 minutes away. I called the police to help me get back to my car. But when the officer and I arrived at the spot, I froze. My car had been moved. It was no longer on the shoulder of the road. Someone had pushed it deep into the edge of the forest, hiding it exactly like the other car I had seen earlier. If that truck hadn't picked me up, I would have been standing there when they came for the car. The police searched the area, but they found nothing. No footprints, no suspects, and no information on the hidden car. I still don't know who was in those woods or what they wanted. All I know is that the pickup truck saved my life that night.